All right, let's talk about something that not too long ago was basically a national punchline. When the United States announced it was creating the Space Force back in 2019, the reaction wasn't exactly awe. Mostly people just laughed. The whole idea felt like it was ripped straight out of a sci-fi comedy. I mean, you remember this, right? Late-night comedians had an absolute field day with it. The name alone sounded so ridiculous that it even got its own satirical sitcom on Netflix. For a while there, the Space Force was just this running joke, a weird political decision, not a serious military branch. But then, things started happening that were no joke at all. And just like that, the laughter stopped. In November 2021, Russia fired a missile and blew one of its own dead satellites to pieces, just to prove they could. A few months after that, just 1 hour before their tanks crossed into Ukraine, a massive Russian cyber attack knocked out the satellite network that the entire Ukrainian military depended on. And then, in 2023, it happened. The first ever physical battle in space, when an Israeli missile took out a ballistic missile above the atmosphere. Suddenly, the message was loud and clear. War in space isn't coming. It's already here. So, this huge shift from sci-fi to reality makes you ask the big question. Why? Why is the empty space around our planet all of a sudden a battlefield? Well, it all comes down to a classic military principle. Space is the ultimate high ground. It's the one place you can be to see everything and everyone down below. And we depend on that high ground way more than most of us ever think about. I mean, just consider your average day. The GPS that gets you around town, the weather forecast you check on your phone, your internet, your TV, even the invisible timestamps that keep the entire global financial system from collapsing, it all runs on this delicate web of satellites. We've basically built our entire modern civilization on top of this orbital platform. But you have to know, not all orbits are the same. You've got low Earth orbit, or LEO. This is the close, fast lane, where satellites are screaming along at 17,000 miles an hour. It's perfect for things like SpaceX's Starlink, where you need that super low latency, that speed. But then you've got geostationary orbit, or GEO, which is way, way out there. And at that very specific distance, a satellite's speed perfectly matches Earth's spin, so it just hangs there, motionless in the sky. That's what you want for broadcasting a TV signal or watching weather patterns over one part of the world. Each orbit is its own kind of strategic real estate. But the really big revolution that's happening up there, it isn't just about location or fancy new rockets. It's about software. Specifically, it's about how artificial intelligence is completely rewriting the rulebook of warfare, something the military calls the kill chain. Now, the kill chain sounds intense, and it is, but it's basically just the step-by-step process that every army on Earth uses to go from spotting a target to, well, dealing with it. It is the fundamental logic of how you fight a war. And that process has 5 basic steps. First, you have to find your target, maybe with a satellite or a drone. Then you fix its exact coordinates. After that, you target it. You figure out the best weapon for the job. Then you engage. You pull the trigger. And finally, you assess the damage to see if you actually hit it. For literally centuries, this has all been done by humans. But AI just throws that whole timeline out the window. So on one side, picture a traditional army. You've got human analysts who might spend days poring over satellite photos, trying to find enemy tanks. On the other side, you've got an AI-enabled army doing the exact same thing in minutes. Computer vision scans the images, instantly IDing tanks. Then the software pulls in data from cell phones and websites and spits out a list of targets with a 90% probability. The difference in speed is it's absolutely mind-bending. And that's the real kicker here. It's not that AI can do things humans can't. It's that it can do them at an inhuman speed. A whole team of expert analysts might take a couple of days to plan a complex attack. But the right software, it can do it in a tiny fraction of that time. That speed, that's the new decisive advantage. But, and this is a huge but, all this new speed and power comes with some truly catastrophic risks. See, a war in space isn't like a war anywhere else. The rules are different, and the consequences of even one shot being fired can be permanent.
Here's the core problem. Satellites are total sitting ducks. They're these multi-billion-dollar, absolutely vital pieces of equipment, and they are completely exposed. Up there in orbit, there are no mountains to hide behind, no trenches to dig. Every single one is perfectly trackable, which makes them maybe the easiest military targets ever conceived.
And the world's biggest powers have already built a whole arsenal for this new battlefield. You've got kinetic weapons, like those Russian missiles. You've got so-called co-orbital weapons, which are basically satellites designed to just ram into other satellites. China's demonstrated satellites with robotic arms that could literally just grab another one. Russia even tested a satellite that shoots a high-speed projectile at another target in orbit. And that's not even counting the invisible weapons, like cyber attacks and signal jamming. So what happens when these things get used? Well, we actually have a terrifyingly clear picture. That one Russian anti-satellite test in 2021, when they blew up just one of their own satellites, created over 1,500 new pieces of debris big enough to track. And every single one of those pieces is now a bullet circling the Earth at 17,000 miles per hour. And that brings us to this nightmare scenario called the Kessler syndrome. It's a theory that says once you get enough junk in orbit, once the density hits a certain tipping point, a chain reaction becomes basically unstoppable. Collisions create more debris, which then causes more collisions, which creates even more debris. You see where this is going. It's an exponential domino effect. The debris from one satellite hitting another could take out two more. The junk from those two could take out four, and on and on and on. A single battle in space could kick off a cascade that makes entire orbits totally unusable, not just for us, but for generations to come. It's basically the space equivalent of mutually assured destruction. So if you're a major world power, how do you even begin to prepare for a threat like that? Well, the answer isn't to build shields or pull back. Instead, the strategy is to lean into a whole new kind of arms race. And the new game plan isn't about trying to defend every single satellite. They know that's impossible. No, the strategy is all about resilience through proliferation. The idea is simple. You launch so many satellites that an enemy just can't possibly take them all out. You make your network too big to fail. And just look at the scale we're talking about here. The US is building this new network called the Proliferated Warfighter Space Architecture. Just the first real phase, Tranche 1, is going to add another 161 satellites. That one move will almost double the total number of satellites the entire Department of Defense operates. And with Trenches 2 and 3 on the way, we're talking about hundreds upon hundreds of new military satellites going up. But as we race to build all these AI-powered systems, both up in space and down on the ground, we run headfirst into a really deep ethical problem. You know, everyone's mind immediately jumps to killer robots, the Terminator scenario. But the real debate, the one we need to be having, is much more subtle. It's about what it actually means to have meaningful human control. Think about it. If an AI gives a commander a list of 100 targets and they just click the yes button, are they really in control? True control isn't just about giving the final okay. It's about actually understanding the AI system, knowing its weaknesses, knowing its biases, and, crucially, knowing when not to trust its recommendation. That's where the real conversation should be. Which kind of leaves us with this final massive question. Space isn't just another battlefield. It's a shared global resource that's vital to all of our lives, to our economy, to our future. And as we start exporting our earthly conflicts and our most powerful technologies into that fragile environment, you have to wonder, can we stop ourselves from breaking it forever?